Hello guys, good morning. My name is Ademola Badmus, and if this is your first time of coming to my channel, please do not forget to like and subscribe, especially if you find this video helpful. So in the last video, we created another challenge for ourselves and we want to find a way to resolve that. So let's get right into it. So in the last video, we were able to run two of the tests and we realized that only one of it is running and the other one was failing. And my theory is that because we couldn't use this annotation right here would help you. The before test would only set itself up, will launch itself once before, and once it has launched itself, it allows all the tests to run, then after which the after test will now run. So, but in this case, what is in the setup is different. The setup would help you to launch you will launch the browser and also navigate to the particular application. And in the beginning of the particular application, we need to put in the username and password. So which means once that is done, once and the login admin feature is executed, it means this scenario will not be able to execute because it won't be able to find the login page because there is no page that will be launched anymore. So that will cause the error. Now, with that being said, how do we then fix this? We will fix this by doing this before method. A before method basically runs before each of the tests. So a before method will launch first for the first time. After that, it will allow login as admin to run its test. And when we change this to a before, let's leave it at after test for now. If we change it to a before method as well, it would execute itself right after the login admin has executed itself. So right now, let us try to make it run. And this, we expect that it should run twice. The setup should run twice, as well as the test should be able to run twice. But since this is an after method, let's see the reaction. I would like us to see the reaction together. So I didn't intend to just run one side. Let me run the whole thing. User types. Okay. Admin. Now. Oh, it didn't launch the manager for us. Why? Says no such element. Now, this is interesting. It says no such element. Why does it say that? That's basically because when it tries to set up the next one, the Selenium commands are a bit fast. So before that could be set up, it was already looking for the username. Now, that is not even able to load the username at all. Could be of two reasons. Let's look further into the error that was returned. Java 34. So let's look into our line 34. Java 34. Okay, the manager login couldn't do this. And user types 18. Okay, so it couldn't execute that for us. It couldn't see that line. So what we will do is this. We would introduce a wait. We will introduce a wait. I've already pre-stated this before, but let me explain how a wait should work. Now, remember I told you that we would not use thread.sleep because that means we are inherently add coding into our code. We are add coding more elements into more time into our scripts, which doesn't make sense. What I'm trying to say is if you have let's say you are waiting for an element to load up and you use a thread.sleep and you add 5 seconds. What that means is if the element loads up under a second, or probably it loads up in 2 seconds, the script will still wait 3 more seconds because you've already instructed it to wait 5 seconds, whether the event happens or not. So in order to address that, we need to do this. We need to create a wait. Okay. Now that we have even created, there's another bug I've seen here. Now that we have created a startup session, we don't need this outside anymore. We don't need this here anymore. We can just put it here. Say driver equals what we just copied. So it means for every time is the start session method that will be instantiating the Chrome driver and will be launching it. So we don't need to write it 4 times, and we can just call it anytime with the annotation. So as I was saying, let us introduce a wait. A wait would ensure that the WebDriver wait, the way it works is that it waits intuitively. So if you ask it to wait for 10 seconds before an event occurs, it would be ready to wait. But if the event occurs in the first second of waiting, the WebDriver wait would just make sure that the script continues running without waiting for the remaining 9 seconds. So instead of just causing the script to wait for outrightly for 10 seconds, it will only wait for the time that it is required, that the script use to execute its own to execute the particular action. So let's write the syntax. You use a WebDriver wait. Let me initiate it here. A WebDriver wait. So let me come into our start session to have an instance of it ready. So we say WebDriver wait, which we have instantiated as wait. We say wait will be the new WebDriver wait, right? And now we will call an instance of the driver inside. Then we would give it the instruction for that. As you can see, IntelliJ brings a lot of added auto suggestions. So we'll just use, with the duration of seconds, 10. It is important to mention that in the older version of Selenium, in case you use like Selenium version 3, if you use anything like Selenium version 3.141.0 or something, the way the WebDriver wait is instantiated was different. As at then, you do not use a duration of seconds, you just put the time there. You just put the 10 seconds there, and that's the way it works. But now it is different. So now that we've caused it to wait, so it means anytime we want to use this wait, we are already telling the WebDriver that you have to pause for 10 seconds to allow an event to happen. So now let's make the event happen in the methods. So we can just easily say wait until, this is the syntax. Then you wait for an expected condition. Expected conditions. Now, what expected conditions are we waiting for? There are so many of it. Let's say it's an alert you're waiting for. You could wait for an alert to be present. You can wait for a title. You can wait for an attribute to contain. You can wait for an attribute to be in a particular state. All right. There are so many of them, so you can exploit, but let's just use the presence of an element. So you want the presence of the element to be located. Once it is located, the action can continue. So this is what I was explaining earlier. So if you've told the WebDriver to wait for 10 seconds, you're only telling it to wait 10 seconds, during which you want this event to happen, the presence of element to be located. And once the element is located, you whether it is located on the first second or on the second time of waiting, the remaining time does not need to be used. The script can continue, so it will still make it fast. So we want to get this particular event, the element, we want to locate it by a CSS selector. We can just use the username field. So each time it loads the page, it waits for the username field to be located before it begins to run. So with this, you have created a wait, which is better than a thread.sleep. Okay, so let's include it in the rest of the code. Yep. And here, yeah. So now that we've been able to create a wait, and let's try to run our code again and see if this has fixed our issue. So run user types. Yeah, it is building up. Yep. Now it's about to start the test. Remember, we've not changed the notation for the after test. It's supposed to be an after method, but we just want to see the reaction of the script to that. Now admin has worked. Now it has launched manager, expectedly. Yes, because the before method is working. So it is launching before each of the tests. So what happens? The after test only closes the last one. That's what would happen. It won't close the first one. So now, in order to address that, we just need to change this after test method annotation to an after method annotation. Now, if we run this now, it would set it up for admin and shut it down, then set it up for manager and shut it down as well. Wait for it. Yes, the admin has run. Welcome back, admin. Now it's setting it up for manager as well. The manager is loading up. Welcome back, Max. Oh, the manager failed. Why did it fail? The expected is no longer the same. And we initially had to change this. So this inherently means that the site we are using has some funny peculiarities. But we are going to change it for one last time. So if it reverts itself again, it won't be an issue for us. We have been able to use it to establish the thing that we need it to do. We want to be able to make a verification. But in your own case, if you're in a real life example, like you're in your on your job, once you have a flaky element like that changes the text and all that, you can either look for something else that would validate your login. You don't have to essentially use this. The whole scope of learning how to automate is just understand your application manually and find the best way to represent it on the code to simulate. So if you have the better element to identify that your login is successful, you can do that. For example, if you're logged in right now, let's click on the site and click login. As a manager, sandbox, file login. Now I could say maybe once the manager loads, I should see site administration, or probably once the manager loads, I should see this name, MM. That would be for manager, right? I could use that to verify it because I already know that the manager's name is Max. So we could use anything to any part of the page to verify the success of our actions. So now that we've been able to do this successfully, so let us add the other tests, the teacher login and the student login. And at the same time, as you can see, it is worthy of note that another thing that the annotation brings is the fact that it allows you to be able to run your tests independently of one another. What I mean by that is that when you have a test running, if it fails, it doesn't crash the whole test for you. It just basically goes on to run the next it just basically goes on to run the next test without disrupting the flow until it gets to the end. Then it will identify the ones that have failed for you, and you can fix that yourself. So this is for the login for the teacher feature. So we are going to add this to it. Then lastly, the student. Now, since we've been able to establish that the after method runs, then another thing that I should also mention is that when you are using a before method, when you are using these annotations, it helps you arrange your code your script in the order that it would run, because it would by default use an alphabetical order. So it means that you don't have to arrange it in a particular order when you are writing it. As you can see right now, the before method and the after method are in the middle, and I'm just writing everything as I please. But if I actually want it to run in a specific order, other than the way the annotation would pick it, because the test ng annotation will pick it alphabetically. I have said that before, but let's say I want the teacher's method to run first, right? What do? It means I'll have to introduce a priority. A priority would help us get that. So the one that I want to run first will take a priority of 0. The indexing starts from 0, and let's say I want the manager to run after that. That will take the next priority, which will be equal to 1. Priority will be equal to 1. And let's say after that, I want the student to run. Or if I decide not to put priority on the last two, what will happen? It will run teacher first, it will run manager after, then it will pick the rest alphabetically. Let's try that and see if the theory is right. Let's run everything, user types. So this time it will run 4 methods for us, and it is building as usual because we've added new code to it. So let's give it a little time to run through. And it will start with the one that we prioritize. Oh, it didn't. That's weird, because we didn't finish the priority then. That would make a lot of sense. Oh, it actually did. So the ones we assigned priority to would run last. The ones we didn't assign priority to precedes the one that a priority has been assigned to. So, wow, I never really used priority to that extent. I never tried this scenario before. Yeah, I've learned something too. This is good. So let's assign priority to the rest to make sure that it follows the order that we want. So after teacher, we want student, we want admin to run last. So let's make student priority 2. Priority 2. Oh. And we make admin priority 1. So if you do not assign priority to, the ones you don't assign priority to would run before the ones you assign priority to. Let's not forget that. Assign 3. So student login failed. Why? See, the same text issue. So let's edit that, because I would like us to have a successful one. So let's change this to welcome Sam. And now that we've done that, let's run all 4. So we run all 4. So once this run, we've probably come to the end of the series. But before I end this series, I will show us another way that we can use to run our tests using something called the Test Ng Xml. That is what I'm going to show us. Let's just wait for it to run and see. Okay. Based on the priority, teacher came first, exactly. And the next one, admin will run last. Manager is the second, just as we did it. And the next one will be student. And admin will be the last one. As you can see, student, successful. Oh, see, it's now turned to welcome back again. So that shows that we just need to get something else to ensure that we get the right scenario and that runs all 4 tests for us. So the last thing I will show us is using the Test Ng XML. In order to get the Test Ng XML, you go into your IntelliJ. If you're using a Mac, you go to Preferences. If you're using a Windows system, you go to Settings. So when you get there, hold on. Okay, so when you get there, you click on Plugins, and in the plugins, search for Test Ng. So what the Test Ng file, so when you have Test Ng, create Test Ng XML, then you install it, you click Apply and click OK. So when you have that, the next thing is you right click on your project and you click on Create Test Ng XML. What the Test Ng XML does is it helps us to create, and you get this notification, click on OK. When you click on OK, a Test Ng file will be created in your root. If you can't see it like mine, you probably just need to get to your Maven and reload the project. Oh, it's still loading itself. Let's see. So if I reload the project, I expect to see the testng file pop up anytime soon. So as I was explaining, what does the testng XML do? The testng XML file helps us to create a suite for our test. So what is advisable is do not create your testng file before you complete your test. If you do it before you complete your test, it's not as if it's a bad practice, but it is easier when you've completed your test. If you've not completed your test, you probably just have to fill it yourself. But once your test is all completed and you create it, let me format this. Let me format this so you can see it better. Yeah. So if you create it after your test, it would create the classes for you. It will create the classes for you. So it will encompass how your test is structured, the things that you made. And as you can see, it also returned it in an alphabetical order, right? But we've already assigned a priority, so you don't have to worry about it. Let's try to make everything get a green before we call it a day. So let's do this. So I will use the testng file to now run this. All I just need to do is right click on the testng file and run the testng XML. That's all. So with this, it will build expectedly, and you have one place of test, and also you can just continue to run your test from there. So this is what I do. I wait till I am actually done with my test. Then I create the test ng XML file so it can help me run it. And at times, if I'm just feeling lazy, I create it at the beginning and I just need to add the class. So the structure of my methods would not matter. I will just add the class. Let's see. Based on the priority we assign, teacher runs first, manager runs after that, and right after manager is students, then admin runs last. Come on, give me a green. Do not fail the student this time. Oh yeah, we got a green on student. We should get a green on admin expectedly. Yeah, so it all runs successfully. So as I was explaining, the test ng XML, if I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to be right clicking into my code and be doing all of that, I can just easily create this from the beginning by just creating the classes tag and the class tag and put the name of my unit test in it, and putting the name of my test in it. So I'll put the package name and the class name, and everything inside begins to run. So as I create new methods, I just need to right click and use the testng XML to do that. So this brings us to the end of the first Java series. In the next Java series, it will be about writing some of this from scratch again and getting to the BDD level. And in that one, I hope to do more justice to optimizing our page object, because there are still other things you can do here. The verification of each of the welcome header text is almost the same everywhere. And we have repetitive actions like clicking and sending keys. So I can create like a separate class that does clicking of any element, that does typing into any text field on the page and reference it inside my code. So I can have a cleaner and an easily maintained code, because if I have issue with this click right now, I would need to come here and fix it. But if I can create a generic class where I can click anything, I can type anything, and if there is anything wrong with clicking or typing, I would only have to fix the typing or clicking function. I don't need to come into my code to do that. Okay, so with that being said, thank you very much for getting this far with me. Do not forget to like and subscribe, and please put on your notification bell so you would know when I drop the next series. Bye bye.